This is Victoria Cartagena. I play Renee Montoya on Gotham, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Hey, this is Andrew Stewart-Jones. I play Christopher Allen on Gotham, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome to Gotham TV Podcast, the unofficial podcast of the TV show Gotham and the connected DC universe. We are on episode 29 of Gotham TV Podcast, episode 10 of Gotham, entitled Lovecraft, and I'm one of your hosts, John.
And I'm your other host, Derek. Last episode of the season of Gotham, or the first season of Gotham, so winter finale time.
Mid-season finale.
Mid-season finale, yeah. So really excited on this one. We're really looking forward to this episode, and I think it paid off in spades.
Yeah, Chris Kringle finale for Gotham.
For Gotham.
In Ireland and the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess what we've been doing this week since the last episode, if you haven't been able to download our podcasts, we've just released a podcast interview with Victoria Cartagena and Andrew Stewart-Jones, a live interview which lasted for an hour and was held with our friends over at Legends of Gotham.
Yeah, that's Bill and Anne-Marie.
Yeah, really good fun. I hope you got a chance to listen to it. If you haven't, it should be in your feed. Otherwise, go down and download it and have a listen. It's really good fun and really great to catch up with the members of the MCU and ask a bunch of questions that I know we were dying to get the answers to.
Exactly. And you can see just how bad we are at accents other than our own.
Yeah, you can watch the video on YouTube as well if you want to see what we look like, see what's behind these
don't
voices.
Do that. I am a face made for radio or podcasting.
Or podcasting.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, I guess with that, on to the news.
Yeah, so sticking with members of the MCU, or a member of the MCU, Victoria Cartagena, who plays Renee Montoya, and Erin Richards, who plays Barbara Keene. Both these characters and individuals, I should say, have been nominated for an AfterEllen.com award for the best lesbian couple on TV. If that little teaser, steamy, slightly misty scene there at the end of episode 9 got you going, got you riled up, certainly
riled up or excited?
Excited,
yeah,
both.
Okay.
Riled, yeah.
we know from Andrew Stewart-Jones it definitely got him happy.
Yes, exactly. So this was an excellent bit of TV for me, and we asked the question to Victoria, this importance of the homosexual feelings of her character Renee Montoya, just how important that is to be retained by the character, even though it isn't the be-all and end-all of that character, that it's a really significant moment for comic book characters, graphic novel characters moving from the book through to the screen. It's really important that that was retained, and Gotham has retained that. And so I think justly there is this vote, an award nomination on AfterEllen.com for Best Lesbian Couple on TV. I haven't seen much of them as a couple, but certainly it's provided an interesting menage a trois for...
Maybe.
Well, maybe. No, sorry.
Maybe.
Not menage a trois. Love triangle.
That's
the word I was looking for. Between Barbara, Renee, and Jim, and obviously the conflict and tension that all that brings between those three characters, which has been really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Renee Montoya as a character herself has been nominated for best lesbian character on TV this year, which I think is great. Obviously, that's
definitely
a perfect, a really good part and a really good character overall. I know some people haven't. I know none of us have seen a huge amount of the relationship between Renee and Barbara play out as an actual relationship. So far, we hear there's more to come next half of the season. So if you feel that it's not the couple that you want to vote for, you can also vote for Renee Montoya as well in the After Ellen poll.
So that's great. That's great news. So yeah, vote at afterellen.com for Renee Montoya, and also then for the best lesbian couple, Renee Montoya and Barbara Keane.
Yep. So in other news, we have reached out to Channel 5 about the rest of Season 1. Episode 10 that aired last night is the last episode of this half of the season, which we've spoken about, obviously. It returns in the US on the 5th of January. But unfortunately, the response that we've received is that at the moment they have yet to decide an air date in the UK for the rest of Season 1. We've been asked a number of times when the show is going to be coming back, so we did reach out and we did get that response. Right now, they're essentially saying that it will be later in the year. That's essentially all we've heard. So bear in mind, the release date for the pilot of Season 1 was only announced 2 weeks before it aired in the UK. Just as we were leaving for New York Comic Con, we got the announcement of the date for the first episode of Season 1, which was only a couple of weeks behind the US. I think some of the pieces that we've talked about before that played into that were the number of breaks that happen in the US show. We've had 0 breaks since the series started 10 weeks ago. We've had no breaks. We've had no off weeks. It's been 10 episodes in a row. So the expectation would be there's 12 episodes in the rest of the season. So the expectation would be that we have those 12 episodes. They'll play them as close to back in the UK as they can. So whether that means the show won't start airing until February, or whether that means it'll be finished by, say, March or April, that those kind of decisions are still being made at Channel 5 at the moment.
So we will update you all as soon as we have any further confirmation of that date. It might be more than likely that we will be doing it through Twitter or Facebook handles. So definitely follow us on our Twitter account, our Facebook account, or Google Plus at Gotham TV Podcast. Just give us a search there and you should be able to find us. Hopefully we will spring up from the search. Yeah, I mean, so far we really are thinking it's going to be early 2015, hopefully in January. Touch wood, fingers crossed, rub the rabbit's foot that it will be very close to the American air date. I think that would be really good. I mean, I know Bill Meeks from Legends of Gotham, when we were doing the interview with Victoria and Andrew last week, was saying we hope it is close so that we can discuss things about the show between ourselves, or even just over the air on the podcast. So it really would help us connect a bit closer into our American and Canadian friends, and I think also for the UK viewers to connect with the American viewers. I mean, with Twitter and so on, so many things can get maybe spoiled, or people obviously will maybe seek to look and watch them sooner than they should do. Mm-hmm. But I think the closer it could be to the 5th of January, I think it would be really good. It seems to be, we've talked about this before, it seems to be the way that certainly some of the really big shows like Walking Dead and Game of Thrones are doing. And in fact, even with Arrow and The Flash on Sky over here is very close to the CW air date. I think there's only about a week or 2 weeks between there, rather than, I think for us, 3-4 weeks and 4 episodes between.
Yeah. I think at times, and again, just to point it out, at times, I think we started out 3, maybe 4 weeks behind the US, but that gap did shorten over the couple of weeks because of breaks like Thanksgiving, which we don't have over here, because of a couple of breaks that happened for I don't know, I think there was one for some of the voting that happened in the US, which we don't have. And traditionally a UK program will play out all the episodes back to back, one a week, every week, so people know to sit down on the couch at 9 p.m. or sit down on the couch at 8 p.m. to watch that particular show. I presume that's what Channel 5 are going for. It's quite easy to have someone forget to tune in for an episode the following week, or miss, or think they've missed an episode when actually there's none on. So I think they're probably just working through those plans, and as I said, we will update you.
But Gotham will return with episode 11 entitled Rogue's Gallery.
That's right.
So, yeah, that will be 5th of January in the US and Canada, and currently no known date for when Gotham will return to Channel 5 in the UK and in Ireland.
Yep, so just for yourselves, we'll obviously be taking a bit of break after this episode over the Christmas period. But we don't know exactly what date we're going to be returning. We'll hopefully have something in our off season to put up during the time we're off. Maybe just a season recap, but there may be some other things. So on to some more news.
Absolutely. In DC Connected news, Derek's worst nightmare came true. Sorry, no, that's not entirely true. He didn't think it was possible, or didn't think it was going to happen, that a Superman prequel TV series would happen. I think it was rumoured that David S. Goyer, who's been the showrunner for Constantine, was in developing this Superman prequel entitled Krypton. The pitch being years before the Superman legend, we know the House of El was shamed and ostracized, and that this series would follow the Man of Steel's grandfather as he brings hope and equality to Krypton, turning a planet that is in disarray into one worthy of giving birth to the greatest superhero ever known. So yeah, this is happening.
Yeah.
And really on Sci-Fi.
I'm really surprised. I think unfair to say this is not my worst nightmare. I think I've shown over the last 10 episodes that I'm willing to accept prequels based on properties that I like and properties that I'm interested in. This is coming from David S. Goyer. His work on Constantine has been fantastic.
That's true.
You know, he was the writer of Man of Steel, and remember, Man of Steel started out on the planet of Krypton. With the family of the House of El, essentially.
Which was that was a really fascinating part of that film for me as well. Just seeing that whole thing again play out, I thought that was really good. So,
it was a lot more than we'd seen in film before.
Exactly.
And he wrote that he obviously has seen a nugget in that world or in that society that he thinks he can take to the screen. A lot of people have been talking about this as kind of a Game of Thrones idea, which is a go-to for any kind of familial battles between different houses, and essentially the call out of the House of El is something that people are tagging on to mean, will we have a Game of Thrones style society going on?
Game of Thrones in space.
Yeah, pretty much.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
that would be pretty cool.
With fighting dragons or riding dragons, isn't it?
It's one of those things as well, which a bit like with Gotham, sort of when we heard Danny Cannon say that, he was really surprised when looking at some of the backstories of some of these really familiar Batman and Gotham characters, and even some of the big villains and rogues from Batman's history, that the absence of a backstory or a really fleshed out backstory was quite apparent. And of course, one of the things here is that, certainly going back to, the grandfather of Superman, not too much has been written about that either. So Absolutely. You could really develop that quite nicely and sort of set against a kind of a Game of Thrones type operatic of these struggles and tensions between different houses with different kind of values and ethos, whether they're competing or in allegiance, could be really interesting.
Yeah.
And this would add to the whole story and mythos of, again, Superman, of Clark Kent.
Absolutely. The limited amount that we know about Jor-El and about Kal-El, when they were on the planet essentially together, Kal-El was only a baby, so Jor-El, his father, who was played by Russell Crowe, wasn't it?
Yeah, Russell Crowe or
Man of Steel.
Marlon Brando in the original.
That's right. But the little we know about him is essentially he's a sage and he's a person that tried to help run the society with a lot of morals and a lot of belief in the society and belief in the system. So I wonder, is that the kind of tack that they'll take on the show? And it'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting to see. I think I threw it away as fan fiction, particularly the inclusion of David S. Goyer, because he was so heavily involved in Constantine that I didn't think he'd have the time. It's now in development. The pilot is in development anyway for Sci-Fi, who brought us. Forget about all the stuff that people always criticize.
Shocknado. Yeah. Forget Shocknado.
They're big.
Even though I'm secret guilty pleasure, maybe. At least the first one.
I think it's everybody's secret guilty pleasure. Don't worry.
Octonado versus Shark Submarine Torpedo. I don't know.
Forget about all those. They did bring us the fantastic Battlestar Galactica,
Absolutely.
which was epic on a grand scale in space. So they can do this. Definitely.
I think they should do Anaconda, though. I love that film, Anaconda. And if they could bring that back and do it,
and do a TV
great.
series written by David S. Goyer.
That'd be cool.
Okay, the battle.
I'm just thinking like animals. Like I kind of quite like horror done with animals, like arachnophobia, eight-legged freaks, piranha, children of the corn.
Wow, we're learning a lot about you tonight, Johnny. Excellent.
Jaws, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, forget Sharknado. Forget that dodgy acting, dodgy visual effects. Think Battlestar Galactica, Game of Thrones mashup, I reckon.
I think so. And on that note, I think we're done with the news. On to our discussion of episode 10 of Gotham, Lovecraft. Bruce! So, episode 10 of Gotham, Lovecraft, was written by Rebecca Dameron, who's a supervising producer on the show. She also wrote episodes of the following. The episode was directed by Guy Ferland, who's directed episodes of Sons of Anarchy.
Ooh, shout out to Gotham addicts there.
Absolutely. I love Sons of Anarchy. He's also directed The Walking Dead, Homeland, and did 3 episodes of the Torchwood series, Miracle Day. That was the one that was done in the States, the 9-episode series. So he did a third of the episodes of Torchwood. That's the Doctor Who spin-off.
Cool. Yeah.
So really, really
like
interesting.
Torchwood.
Yeah, definitely. John, do you want to give us a synopsis of the episode?
After a group of assassins attack Wayne Manor looking for Selina Kyle, their contract, Bruce and Kat are forced to flee and go on the run into the underbelly of Gotham. A concerned Alfred works with Harvey Bullock to track down the heir to the Wayne family fortune, leading them to Fish Mooney and ultimately to Selina's fence at the factory, a man called Clyde. At the same time, Jim Gordon follows another track, leading him to a man he believes is responsible for the attempted murder of Bruce and Selina Kyle, Dick Lovecraft, only to be attacked by the same attackers who attempt to implicate Jim and his firearm in the death of Dick Lovecraft. All the while, Falcone tries to come to terms with his monetary loss as he tries to root out a mole. Or is it a fish? Or is it a penguin? In his organisation. Selina escapes capture from the factory at the hands of the unknown assassins, and Bruce and Alfred are reunited, as another much beloved partnership is broken up, as Jim Gordon and Harvey Bullock are split, as Jim is assigned to Arkham in retribution by Mayor Aubrey James for the death of Lovecraft, and because of their simmering animosity.
Very good. Overall, this episode really good. I like the fact that we're focused on one story for the vast majority of the episode this time. It's really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean that felt different actually.
Definitely.
And it was good. There are many things I actually really liked about this episode. Amongst them, Alfred, Bruce getting out of Wayne Manor and their interaction with the world of Gotham other than those 4 walls of the drawing room, I thought was brilliant to see. The progression of that relationship that Selina and Bruce have kind of had there, with her sneaking in and to that room and then also now being planted there by Jim Gordon. I loved that progression. And for me, completely out of the blue, was the breakup of Harvey Bullock and Jim Gordon. It was just as shocking as the Penguin coming up the lawn at Falcone's mansion in Penguin's umbrella, as far as I'm concerned, and his reassignment to Arkham right at the end. So for me, this had an awful lot happening, but in a nice sort of bundled and complete story that, again, was the story which you would thread together from some of the serialized elements rather than that episodic crime of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely for me, I totally agree. The interaction between Bruce and different characters than he's dealt with before, and for certain, the interaction between Sean Pertwee's Alfred and Harvey Bullock, who've never met in the past, his interaction with Butch Gilzean and his interaction with Fish Mooney are some of the best moments in the episode, definitely. So really enjoyable. So overall, the episode itself really did focus on Selina and Bruce on the run, didn't it?
Definitely. With 2 kind of branches to it as well, coming from it. One was obviously Harvey Bullock and Alfred teaming up to essentially find Bruce, maybe to find Selina Kyle, but I don't think necessarily they were. I don't think that was as much the focus. It was more about finding Bruce. And then on the other track, it was Jim Gordon trying to track down who the attackers were, focusing primarily on Dick Lovecraft as the prime suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. The opening scene with the attack on Wayne Manor by the group that I think DC Entertainment have called them the Copperheads is what they've been called. So
that's a snake, isn't it?
Yeah. It's something that definitely struck me. The way that the leader of the group attacks and kills her victims, which is by crawling on the back of them and constricting them essentially and choking them to death. I knew there was something about it that was that had to be snake-like. So it was great to know that DC Entertainment have called them Copperheads, like the snakes essentially as well. So it does make sense.
Yeah, and her mode of killing is a bit like Onatop from, I think it was GoldenEye, and the Pierce Brosnan Bond film, where he gets a similar kind of treatment, I think, but in a sauna. Yeah. Rather than on the grounds of a country estate.
That's right.
With less innuendo in Gotham.
That's true. That's very true. This looks like a very brutal kill at the opening of this episode.
Well, they cut him open and she smears the blood over her forehead.
Yeah, again, we've talked about it before, but again, the violence that's in these episodes, or the things they do in the episodes anyway, the suggestion of violence that happens in the opening scene of a show that airs at 8 p.m. in the US is pretty brutal for
and they
the
use the car went off the road kind of trick as well to then get to the front door and to get into Wayne Manor. But I suppose the real question is, if they're the Copperheads, who bought them? Who sent them on the contract?
Absolutely, and by the end of the episode, we don't know this. Right?
No, we don't. We have a few theories, though.
I've looked for as many clues as I can, and I can't come up with someone that it is. But we'll talk about it as we go.
We'll talk about it as we go.
You did mention Bond and Onatop. This is definitely Sean Pertwee's audition for the next Bond, isn't it? This scene,
definitely.
He is fantastic in this scene.
He knows how to fire a gun with a classic pose. Absolutely. You can tell he's SAS trained.
Definitely. It is a fantastic scene with Sean Pertwee taking down a bunch of the Copperheads as they attack.
He shot himself as well in the shoulder as well from one of the assassins, who then ultimately gets a shot that kills him off.
Yeah, I thought you said he shot himself, which would be an awful way.
Did I? Maybe I did. Of course, I didn't mean.
He got shot himself. So,
he was pointing the gun in the wrong direction. Yeah. But he gets shot himself. He is well and truly physical in this whole scene. Pretty ruthless as well. He's not afraid of taking down that assassin who's just shot him.
Absolutely.
And he's certainly in full protection mode as Bruce Wayne's butler, or maybe guardian and protector, we should really be calling him.
I think
security.
I think something we've kind of been promised out of the series was that we would see a different side of Alfred, a different side of this character that we've known in many past iterations, but never one this young, I suppose. We talked about it, I think, before the first episode even aired, that we'd probably see him more in a bodyguard role than in just the guiding hand or the fatherly figure. And this is finally coming out in episode 10, where he is really showing the bodyguard side of his.
It's brilliant. I love it. It's really great, and it's done so stylishly as well by Sean Pertwee. I mean, props to him for just delivering just real style and class as he fires a gun and as he protects Bruce Wayne. And it's something, we've not ever been able to see before because of the age. And a much older Alfred is maybe not as nimble or as feisty or as strong as we see here in this version of Alfred.
Absolutely, but I still wouldn't want to mess with Michael Caine if he came after me in a dark alley. To be honest, he's still got some of that feistiness.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I think it's great, really great to see that. Just before that as well, we do see a bit of balancing work being done between Bruce and Selina, where she's teaching him to hold his balance and keep his core strong. As we all should do, of course. But he it's a really interesting little exchange just before that shootout where really get a sense from Bruce that he does suspect ulterior motives from Selina Kyle, but he realizes that she's not showing her full sort of hand of her full deck of cards really here, which is shown by this clip.
I don't imagine you consider me a suitable romantic partner, so why would you want to kiss me? I don't know.
You think too much, kid. I'm just trying to be nice.
No offense. You don't strike me as a nice person.
What do you mean? I'm nice.
I don't mean you're not a good person, but you're not nice. You don't care much for other people.
Screw you, orphan.
I just love the way he really teases out that whole thing about what we know, I think, about Catwoman is that she's not a bad person, but she's not necessarily nice, because at the core of everything, she's thinking inwardly about herself predominantly.
Absolutely.
Not exclusively, but predominantly about herself and how she's going to get by and how she's going to get the money to survive coming from that orphan street situation that she finds herself in.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that he does say, you don't strike me as nice, but you're not bad either. And I think that encapsulates Selina Kyle, Catwoman in general. And I thought that was a nice way of putting it.
Absolutely. And one of the other things we learn from this is that Bruce is willing to learn from pretty much anybody that's around him that's going to teach him. So he's starting to learn the balancing techniques from Catwoman. A bit later on in the episode, he learns a bit more from her about how to deal in the underworld of Gotham, which will obviously, as we go, we'll get through those kind of elements. But he's definitely willing to take lessons from anywhere, essentially, and incorporate them in his own learning. So we've seen elements of Jim teaching him pieces, we've seen elements of Alfred teaching him pieces, and now we're seeing Selina teaching him something else that will build towards his character.
And we see Selina wanting to get a kiss again. She's very focused on getting this kiss from Bruce Wayne, and to an extent, I just wonder if that is part of her mystique and charm. You know, she's using that as a bit of a power play against him. This more reserved child from a upper class wealthy background who maybe hasn't had this street interaction where these things may be more apparent. Yeah, that I thought was kind of a nice little play as well.
Absolutely, and I love as you heard on the line, I absolutely love the point that Bruce makes, that he's considered it, but he's considered that probably she's just doing it for her own ends. Yeah. He's again analytical about how he behaves to other people. Again, a nice little touch for Bruce. But overall, again, back to quickly the attack on Wayne Manor. There's one of the pieces that I really enjoyed, which was the inclusion of the secret passages in the building to get around. So when the kids are trying to escape, Bruce leads Selina to an old passage that was used by servants essentially in the building. Just that little inclusion that there are secret passages within Wayne Manor. It's a great little touch for anybody who's interested in Batman and interested in that focus and interested in Wayne Manor itself. It's kind of cool that they're just throwing in that little touch. I like that.
Definitely. But then from this whole attack on Wayne Manor and the involvement of the police and the cops from the GCPD, Jim's secret essentially comes out to Harvey Bullock. The secret he's been keeping from him, that as far as Harvey Bullock is concerned, the Wayne's murder, Thomas and Martha's murder, is closed, finito, and done. And it all blows up in his face as Harvey Bullock finds out that Cat, Selina Kyle, has been essentially holidaying for her own protection and safety at Wayne Manor. And as Harvey Bullock said, how did that work out, compadre? Which is great.
Absolutely, it's just an excellent scene. I love Bullock and Alfred teaming up against each other with Jim, where they just they don't understand his motives for keeping this kind of stuff secret to himself. Jim's doing it because he doesn't trust anybody in the city. He's had reason not to trust anybody in the city, but even his own partner is going, you could have told me about this, I would have told you not to do it, essentially, which is why Jim didn't actually tell him. It's not because he doesn't trust anybody, it's because he wants to do things his own way. He gets called a plank by Alfred, which is hilarious. He gets called a putz by Harvey Bullock, which again, everybody has it in for Jim. There's the fantastic scene where Harvey and Alfred team up.
Yeah, and one other quick thing that is interesting is that Jim Gordon explains the Lovecraft theory, because as well, Harvey Bullock is not aware of that either, and he's certainly not aware that the MCU have introduced Jim to Harvey Dent, and that they're essentially this angle of Selina being kept in Wayne Manor and a slight leak from Harvey Dent's office. None of that's known to Harvey Bullock. He's totally in the dark. And he does explain Lovecraft's theory here as well. Again, just illustrating to Harvey Bullock, am I your partner? I mean, you could just see the big question mark. And I think his reaction here is absolutely spot on. He's been kept in the dark by his partner. Mm-hmm. And certainly, I think we've seen Harvey Bullock throw the loyalty towards Jim in helping him out over a number of episodes. So this is a really interesting little bit of dynamic, I think, between the two characters, and sort of develops it further. And then, as you say, we get Harvey Bullock teaming up with Alfred, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and that leads to Harvey and Alfred teaming up. Finally, the new partnership in Gotham with an awesome line.
I'm coming with you.
All right. You're pretty handy for a valet.
Butler, mate. I'm a butler.
Yeah, I love the. I'm not a valet. I'm a butler. Very cool. And then it leads to the interrogation room with Maggie.
Yeah. Absolutely, and again, we just see some great interaction here. And we see this other side of Alfred. To me, Alfred in this whole episode is chameleon-like. He shifts from different sort of roles and characters and portrayals to get to where he wants to go and to get what he wants. And here in the interview room, we see him being really quite resourceful and adaptable with Harvey Bullock. Now, he's got the resources to be resourceful as he whips out $100 bills to give to Mackie, who's a street kid like Selina Kyle. So he is just lapping this stuff up. But Harvey's response here is, I can get this by beating the kid with a roll of dimes, is an excellent line. Again, another great line from Harvey Bullock.
Absolutely. I think for next season we're going to be instituting the Bullockism of the week. Definitely, that's definitely one of my favourites. But yeah, Mackie's the one that sends him off to meet Fish to find out where Kat may have gone, because he doesn't know. He says she's really secretive about where she lives, really secretive about where she stays, and maybe Fish will know because she's in charge of all the fences in Gotham, essentially. So that could lead to the connection between the two of them. So off Alfred and Harvey go to meet up with Fish, and that's another brilliant scene for the episode of getting Alfred and Fish meeting up together in a room. Fantastic. Yeah. Having that intro between Butch Gilzine, who's trying to block Alfred from meeting Fish, and having Alfred essentially intimidate him, he thinks.
Yeah.
So, John, for our American listeners, who there's quite a few of, can you explain some of the lines from Alfred? So they say that he had a friend that we call Butch as a bit of a joke, who wasn't Butch at all, essentially. He was from Whitechapel. All right? So where's Whitechapel, John? Geography major that you are.
Whitechapel is in London.
Right.
And as you will all know from the previous podcast, where we played the game with Victoria Cartagena and Andrew Stewart Jones, my London accent is atrocious.
Right.
Governor. Alfred is from London. Butch, again, can be used quite sarcastically, I think, in English. That guy's pretty butch. He isn't.
He isn't, exactly.
In fact, he might be the opposite of being butch and manly. He could be something quite different.
Yep, absolutely. And the other phrase he uses is he calls him a horrible little toe rag.
Yeah, a toe rag. I could use another load of words that you probably wouldn't understand to describe what a toe rag is, like whippersnapper, scally, scallywag, knacker, you name it.
Will they have to edit any of these out?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But essentially they mean a toe rag. I don't exactly know the root of it offhand, but it's someone who really... They're pretty mischievous, they're pretty not necessarily nasty, but they get into trouble because they're mischievous,
Right.
trying to do stuff, get stuff at the expense of others.
Okay. All right. So basically, the Butch that he knew in the past was was a bit of an idiot, as we'd say in Ireland. Yeah. Correct.
Maybe in a dress.
Perhaps in a dress, yes. All right, thanks for the explanation of English terminology, John. Which, if we've left
Which is
this
as bad as my accent.
Excellent. If we've left this in the episode, you've done a good job. So back to Fish, Mooney, and Alfred's meeting. So Fish is pretty doesn't really want to help Alfred out very much when they begin, does she?
She doesn't at all. And in fact, he really has to put on the charm and be quite debonair to her. And again, this works. I think she says the line, "Remember this kindness that I now give to you. I will check this out." I think as well, there's an element where he is almost bribing her, saying, "Well, we're looking for Bruce Wayne, the heir to the Wayne family fortune, because he's with this orphan street girl who you know about through the fences that you sort of run and all that street level ownership of the children and the orphans that you run." So she kind of maybe sees it as a way of getting further influence and power by, in some ways being disposed towards the Waynes and their fortune, and maybe being able to get a favour in the future.
Yeah.
Remember this kindness. Absolutely. She won't give anything for free, and maybe this will come back to, not necessarily to haunt Alfred, but she will want to get her change from this transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, of course, she's lost her boyfriend quite recently. Maybe she's just on the lookout for a new partner.
Yeah, but I think, as I said, Alfred to me is really chameleon-like in this episode. He, is physical and ruthless with regards to the assassins attacking Wayne Manor. He becomes resourceful and adaptable when he's with Harvey Bullock doing the investigation in the interview room with Mackie. We now see that he's both charming and debonair and can switch it on when he needs to in order to, in a sense, almost flatter people, to emotionally bribe them, maybe, for want of a better word, to get things done. And of course, what we have seen, whether it is with the shout in the woods or with telling Harvey and Jim to stop their kind of feud about who knew what, let's get on with finding Bruce Wayne, this concerned and protective father-type figure and guardian-type figure that he now feels, obviously, as Bruce's parents are dead.
Yeah.
So this is a great range of different things that Alfred is being asked to show to us as an audience, and I loved that. This was really one of the great parts of this episode for me.
Definitely. I said last week that Alfred is becoming one of my favourite characters in the show, and this only sets to prove it even more. He's really, really, really good part of the show, and the range of stuff that he's shown in this episode is fantastic. Something really, really new and really different from what we've seen in the past. Really good. Really good. On the other side of the investigation, Jim is essentially tracking down Lovecraft, is tracking down the path of where these contract killers could have come from. So he goes to Harvey Dent's office to try and see if he can find Lovecraft, who essentially Harvey Dent knows loads about. It sounds like he's got a pretty big case against this guy. He even knows where his mistresses live, and that's where Lovecraft
and that
is
he's using, exactly, and that he's using their names for a series of condos that he owns.
Yeah, he's seriously got some investigation going on. But I really like that piece with Harvey Dent where he's trying to justify why he linked Jim Gordon's name to the person that knows the killer of the Wayne murderers. It's really, again, showing the two sides of Harvey Dent. He's going to do anything.
Exactly. He does come across here as slightly untrustworthy, to an extent. It's almost as though he's doing that normal lawyer speak of, well, I didn't technically do anything against what we had agreed on, but I think he uses the line, I had to give your name to a couple of sources for the deep background.
Yeah.
That was a really interesting phrase, I think, that was used, because I think of something later that we'll talk about as to, who put out this contract on Selina Kyle. But again, it does further this idea that Harvey Dent is maybe, whether it's untrustworthy or whether he's just that sort of slightly unbalanced or unhinged, that he does certain things that maybe he shouldn't, and that would get him into trouble. And I think that kind of plays out later in the GCPD when James Aubrey is there, and you get this sense of maybe a bit more information about his reputation within public office circles in Gotham, which is, again, really interesting to develop that character.
Yeah, Harvey's definitely someone that knows how to play the game in Gotham, and that generally has meant for many of the citizens of Gotham that they're doing it for themselves, that they're doing whatever their plan is, whatever their focus is, they're in it for themselves, and everybody else be damned, essentially. And Harvey Dent looks like he's another one of those characters at times. Yeah,
we got that hint that this was very much to get his case on Lovecraft as to why he was using the Thomas and Martha Wayne murders. And again, this comes to play and is hinted at, really, in this scene. But Jim goes then to Lovecraft's apartment to investigate, and finds him there, and this leads to a really interesting exchange of words between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite an interesting piece. Essentially, Lovecraft. It's the name of the episode. You'd think again we were faked out by the naming of episodes by the creators of Gotham.
Selina Kyle, Arkham.
Yeah, Harvey Dent as well was a little bit more central to the episode than in the past. We had thought that Dick Lovecraft was going to be central to this episode. He was going to be the person that was behind the Wayne murders. We thought there was going to be something huge, just like Jim does, essentially. He thinks that Lovecraft is going to be the one that will solve this whole problem for him. It turns out that Lovecraft is just another businessman in Gotham. The minute he heard about the Wayne deaths, he looked back and noticed that there was a run on Wayne Enterprises stock just before they died, so he started doing some digging. This does lead to the question, again, as to whether the Wayne Enterprises are involved in the death of Martha and Thomas Wayne, as to whether they set it up. If someone's selling stock at the company the day before the death of the Waynes, it's very likely that they knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, this idea that there was a run on the stock, and that Lovecraft kind of wanted a cut of that. He saw this happening, was asking why, and wanted to get in on that action, or at least to maybe bribe the people who were doing it. And again, it does pose the question, was it Wayne Enterprises as an organization that was doing a run on itself, like an institutional run on the stock, or was it an individual or individuals from Wayne Enterprises doing a run on the stock, on Wayne stock, or was it another organization or person doing the run on the Wayne stock because they had ordered, again, a contract killing on Thomas and Martha Wayne?
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
The owner of Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah.
But what I think brings it back to Lovecraft is, in the sense that maybe he just knows too much. Maybe he's too good at snooping around and having his fingers in all these different pies. But it's that it's just the way he describes this whole thing, which is in this clip here.
You think I'm the big wheel? When it comes to the crunch, kid, I'm nobody. Just like you. And the people who really truly run this city, they're watching you huff and puff and run around crusading, and they are laughing at you. You're so deep in the maze, you can't see over the wall.
Tell me something I don't know.
Like, I love this idea of the bigger, sort of nefarious kind of organization or person, this mastermind behind things, and that idea that, you think I'm the big wheel, but the people who are truly in charge are laughing at this idea that you're stuck in the maze, and you're spending so much of your time and effort to get out of the maze. you don't understand that the maze is actually being changed on you by someone from outside.
Yeah, very, very interesting, very interesting. It kind of led to a thought in my head that this could be connected to the Court of Owls, who are a very recent kind of addition to the comic book series, to the Batman comic book series. Essentially, they are a villain that has always been around and always been present in Gotham, and that is controlling it from the background.
I like that theory a lot.
So I wonder will we see some of the Court of Owls? They have been discovered numerous times over the apparently centuries that they were involved in the creation and in the background of Gotham. They've been discovered a few times and have always gone back into hiding. So they definitely could be used in the TV show.
Yeah, and it's very present with the New 52. And interesting, you've got the Court of Owls collected kind of graphic novel that was done by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. And one of the one-offs that is compiled into that charts the effect of the Court of Owls on to, I think it's Alfred's father, who was also in the service of the Wayne family. And that's a really interesting part as well, this idea that it goes back years, decades, centuries in terms of running Gotham. And this kind of feels nicely kind of evil and nefarious to me. And I like that theory, it feels definitely. When you told it to me, I did let out a little squeak.
No, I thought it just struck something in me that I thought was quite interesting. So it's possible that the Copperheads are the Talons, who are the right hand murderers essentially of the Court of Owls. They're the people that go out and kill at the behest of the Court of Owls. That is the possibility that we were discussing as well.
But they're the Copperheads.
They're called the Copperheads. Yeah.
Then maybe it's just a different
in the TV show.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a different name for them, or maybe ultimately the Talons will be the at another time.
Yeah,
who knows?
Perhaps.
But ultimately, poor Dick Lovecraft gets a bullet in the head, and Jim Gordon is implicated by it. I wouldn't say he's framed necessarily, but the lead assassin, the lady, she obviously shoots him in the head with Jim's firearm.
No, it's suicide.
Don't do that.
It's suicide.
I was questioning it. No, it wasn't. We never saw it, but he's shot in the head, in the bath.
It's suicide, don't tell me any different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jim has been strangleholded by Onatop as well. And is knocked out, left kind of unconscious on the floor by again the lead assassin. I mean, she's pretty efficient now at her job. But then is woken up by his phone going off as the leads that are all coming together from Fish Mooney, that Selina has this fence, a guy named Clyde, who's operating out of the factory. And what we have now is this converging of both Jim Gordon, Alfred and Harvey Bullock, but also then from the flea market, this underground area, which, according to Selina Kyle, it's like the mall but without the crappy music. That all these now are converging onto what is known as the factory, where Selina's fence is. And unbeknownst to Selina and Bruce, the assassins are heading there as well, the Copperheads.
Yeah, the fence has called them in, hasn't he, to essentially call them the bounty on their heads to get more money.
Yeah, get some money. But prior to this with Selina and Bruce, we do see like some really good interaction between these two. For me, this is another great part of this episode, is just seeing that progression of Selina and Bruce's relationship. Kind of last week we had Selina in Bruce's world of refinement and getting up at 8:30 for breakfast, 12:30 for lunch, this very ordered, very structured society. And then in this episode we see that, Bruce is caught in Selina's world where, she's telling him, she gives him fresh clothes to make him not stand out, so he suddenly goes a bit grungy.
Yeah. Yeah, for about 3.5 seconds until he introduces himself as Bruce Wayne to the
Well,
next
exactly.
person he meets.
Yeah,
he's not great at this undercover lark yet.
Not yet. He's not gotten. All in fairness, he doesn't get the idea of a secret identity until he's an adult.
That's true.
But he's in this world, this idea where she's given him new clothes to kind of blend into his surroundings, but also this idea that you've got to be like Smoke, you've got to be adaptable in these surroundings in the underbelly of Gotham. You can't come in with airs and graces.
Yeah.
And it's a different perspective, and I love that sort of contrast from the previous week. And there's some great little moments here. I love the whole jumping across the alleyway.
Yeah, fantastic scene.
Really good. Again, Bruce following Selina, and Selina kind of really just liking him. It's almost like this is the first friend that she's met, and I like this interaction a lot, I have to say.
Definitely, and one of the things that really struck me, in particularly that scene of the jump across the alleyway, is if Kat hadn't been there, there would be no Bruce Wayne or Batman. How many times must she ask herself in the future, if I had just not put my hand out to this guy, I would have all those jewels and diamonds that I wanted.
But he wouldn't have been up there because of that.
Potentially, but if she hadn't stuck out the hand,
yeah,
he would have been lost. He would have fallen off that building and not continued. One good point about the relationship between the two of them, as I mentioned earlier on, Bruce does learn from everybody around him. He does try and take lessons from everybody around him. She's given him some really terrible messages throughout this episode. She's essentially lying to him about who's chasing him. First off, they were actually chasing her. She's lying to him, telling Bruce they're after you, just to spend more time with him, which is what he finds out later on, and then she lies to him again, so he still doesn't call Alfred and get to the bottom of this whole thing and get back to his home. She still wants to keep him with him, and he's still following her, as any 12-year-old would do, I suppose.
But one of the nice things about that interaction where he's looking for the phone call, he's looking for some money to make that call to Alfred, is that when Selina asks him, why does this guy matter to you so much? Why are you trying to phone Alfred? I mean, even when they were leaving Wayne Manor, Bruce is toying with the idea of going back or staying there because Alfred's in there and he might need his help. It almost harks back to his parents dying in the alleyway.
Yeah.
And, she's asking, what on earth does he matter to you? He is your valet. Or I should say butler. Mm-hmm. Sorry. I stand corrected by Alfred himself, by his butler. That Bruce says, he's my family. And that's a great little line. It's almost like throwaway, but it means so much. And David Mazouz pulls it off and delivers it in a really, really good way. And it just really reinforces this close bond that's forming and developing between Bruce and Alfred.
Definitely, I think you can be told that so many times throughout the previous episodes or throughout seeing their relationship develop. But it's only when you see these two characters apart that you really realise how tight their bond is, and the reunion between the two of them. I must admit, grown man, slight little tear in the eye when the two of them reunite at the end of the episode. It's something that always gets me in TV shows and movies, to be honest. But when they reunite at the end of the episode and Bruce essentially shows his love for Alfred and shows that is his family, I think it's a fantastic scene and a nice little rounding off of the relationship in the first 10 episodes of the season so far. Really, really good.
But they end up at the factory and locked away at the top of this building as the assassins come in to claim their contract. And it's really here where we see, in quite a precarious scene for Bruce, that it is Selina Kyle that they're after, as the lead assassin is pointing a gun. They've escaped and so on. They've kind of hoodwinked the copperhead guy who's been sent up to collect them by pretending that they've escaped out through the roof, and then he gets knocked down. But there's that moment after some great sequences, actually, as Jim, Harvey, and Alfred turn up.
Yeah.
There's that moment on the stairs in the factory where the lead assassin points a gun at Bruce to ask him, where is your friend? Where is Selina Kyle? Selina's halfway out the window. Bruce is there, and he has her back. He says, she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But you find out here, as the gun is pointed at him, he was never the contract.
Yeah.
He was never the one that was in danger. It was because Selina was at Wayne Manor. It was because Jim Gordon had brought her into that world. It was because Harvey Dent had leaked to his sources too much information to a larger unknown organization in the background that could be Wayne Enterprises or someone. It could still be Falcone or Maroney or Oswald or the Court of Owls as the new theory, which I kind of can get on board with.
It's a working theory. It's
a working theory. And he protects her, and she gives him again. You see David Mazouz in the role of Bruce Wayne, and he's really like a sponge. You really do. And, he's in this precarious position. He's at gunpoint by the lady assassin. And you can see him absorbing it as she tells him, don't ever mistake bravery for good sense. Again, I think you're right. Lessons are being learnt all over the place here, and it's great to see him out of Wayne Manor, as we've said before, because that's where he will learn these types of lessons in Gotham, on the streets, in a factory, and not just in Wayne Manor doing his corkboard investigation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A nice little kind of bow at the end of their relationship when Selina comes back at the end of the episode to Wayne Manor after getting away to say goodbye, so that she wants to be polite. So she's also learnt a little bit from Bruce. Gives him back all the stuff that she'd stolen from him to sell to the fence, which is quite interesting, but keeps one item, which is a little box that it's the one she stole in, I think, episode 3 or episode 4, when she broke into Wayne Manor while he was asleep. Stole a little box and said she was going to keep it. Trying to find out what that is. I'd love to know. I didn't get a chance to research it properly, but it looks like a little image of maybe a scarab or a beetle or a butterfly on the top of that box. I wonder, is there something really important? Because Bruce looks like he concentrates on that little box.
Yeah, when she pulls it out of her pocket, the engraving on it to me looks like a pair of wings around a kind of a jewel.
Yeah.
That's engraved onto the top of the box. But Bruce is kind of looks at it, and he seems to have some kind of knowing look, or even almost like, I recognize this, or something like that in his face. Maybe it's to do with the investigation that he's doing. But he seems to recognize it.
It was in that room, you're right. Yeah.
He seems to recognize it, and it's like he's moving in to say something about it. Maybe take it back off her, who knows? But before anything like that happens, before we kind of find out any more about his interest, in goes Selina for the odd kiss. And
final kiss after 3 episodes.
She's gotten
telling
her
him, I will kiss him.
And she didn't need to go up to the top of a bridge where all the people go to do it. But it's intriguing what that box and maybe what the engraving on the top of it might be. Who knows? Maybe we're way off the mark here. But it did look certainly like he sort of had this flash of recognition about what was on the top of it.
Oh, certainly. And obviously it is the box from his house. So perhaps it's just as simple as it could be his father's favourite ornament. It could be something that held his cigarettes. We don't know.
Or something in it, maybe.
Potentially. That's the fun part to speculate about.
I think the other quick thing as well, we have the reuniting of Bruce and Selina after she's escaped from the factory and to safety. Although I will say, I think Chief Lady Copperhead Assassin, she escapes from that factory, I think. I don't think she gets shot.
Yep.
So maybe she will return in future episodes for someone else who needs to get killed.
Absolutely. Or maybe Selina again, she's not off the hook.
Exactly. But we see that... But we see Alfred and Bruce reunited, and we have that great scene and the great phrase again coming out of Alfred's mouth, where he says, who else will employ a butler anymore in this town, in Gotham? that there's not many people like the Wayne family left who will employ butlers.
I do love it. As I said,
really good.
It did give me a little tear in my eye when I watched it, I must admit. Really enjoyed it. So, other pieces in the episode, I know we didn't really talk about it much. The other kind of big section of the episode is Falcone and the fallout from last week's robbery that Fish commanded, where she took out his armory and took out his money last week, and there's huge implications for the Falcone family this week. Essentially, Falcone kidnaps Penguin to find out why Maroni was involved in the robbery. Penguin essentially says to him, "It's not Maroni. He wouldn't do something like this. This is someone on the inside, and Maroni is definitely not on the inside. He wouldn't have the knowledge to be able to put somebody inside your organization." Essentially, but Falcone does not suspect Fish at all.
No, he does think that Oswald led Maroni to the armory where his money was stored, and he does think that Fish didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, to the point where Oswald calls him out, with all due respect, Don Falcone, but she has not proven her loyalty to you. Why, in a sense, are you still trusting her?
They have this great exchange.
With respect, I don't understand why you still tolerate her existence. She has proved her disloyalty 100 times. She wants your head.
Like half the people who work for me. Fish makes me a lot of money. I can handle Fish Mooney or whatever son of a bitch did this to me. Tell me how to find them all.
We're essentially, well, Fish makes me a lot of money. I can handle her. Is the response from Falcone, and Oswald says, "Give me time. I'll find out who it is, and I guarantee there'll be a connection." That would worry me if I was Falcone. That would really worry me if Penguin was saying, "I'll find her and they'll be connected to Fish." Does that not sound like I'm going to make this up and make sure it's connected to Fish?
Yeah.
I'll find you some evidence.
Exactly. But there's that lovely scene as well that I think Robin Lord Taylor pulls off really well as Liza enters into the room when they're meeting one another with a pot of tea and so on. And she sees him, he sees her. Falcone tells her to leave, come back in a moment. But just the expression on Robin Lord Taylor, on Oswald Cobblepot's face as she comes in is just priceless. I mean, there's no dialogue, but in this whole scene where they're talking about moles, the mole walks in and there's this knowing glance of Oswald, which is just priceless, and I love that.
Absolutely, and she looks terrified. She doesn't hide very well that she's the mole. Falcone could have looked around and seen that this girl is backing up before he even says, "I'll be ready in a minute." She's backing up to get out of that door and out of that room very, very quickly. Very interesting. So this scene is followed by Oswald's right-hand man, the guy he seems to be training up to, in the same way that he was trained up by Fish, a guy called Gabe, who essentially doesn't like his plan, doesn't understand his plan of not telling Falcone who the mole is, not telling Falcone now, and getting it all out there that the reason why he's been duped is because Fish has a mole inside, and that mole is Liza.
Yeah, and Oswald says it's all about timing, but this guy, Gabriel, certainly knows what's going on with Oswald. He seems to be fairly on the inside track on all of this, and knows the machinations that is going on with Oswald. And this is a really interesting little scene, because it's like, isn't it? Who is Gabriel? Yeah. We've never met him before. It would appear on the face of it just to be his driver, but part of me would go, is it not Maroni's driver or something like that? But it's not, because this is past the time where he's been picked up by Falcone with a black hood over it, so so he doesn't know where he's going, even though it must be obvious he's in Falcone's mansion, but nonetheless we'll skip over that. But it is a really interesting scene.
I thought so, and what's most interesting to me is that Oswald seems to be entrusting some of his, I suppose, his most sensitive information that nobody else knows. He's entrusting it to this guy, Gabe. Why? He's already the one that's caused problems for Fish. He's caused problems for Maroni, because of being that person that is on the inside and is being given all the information. Why would he pass that information off to anybody else? It's
exactly. Up till this point, you have kind of thought, well, certainly for me anyway, that Oswald Cobblepot was a one-man show. Yes, he may be able to buy allegiance from the likes of Frankie or from other people once he's understood their weakness, but like we saw in Penguin's Umbrella. But it's all been that he's the one with it in his own mind. He's not letting anything out. If need be, he will kill the people that he's using to further his own plan, such as the cannolis.
Those murders are called the cannolis.
The cannolis. The cannoli murders.
Right.
And all of a sudden we see him, as you say, giving quite intimate information out about his plan and about what he knows. Even just the fact that this guy, Gabriel, does know that he is playing both sides off from one another. He must have ultimate trust with this guy.
Yeah. You have a big theory on who you think this is. I have a small one. And it's just based on what he looks like. Because we mentioned last week that the sketch that was done by Selina Kyle, or given by Selina Kyle, looked like a big guy. Butch Gilzine is what we assumed. This guy's also quite a big character by the look of him sitting down anyway. He looks like quite a big guy. I wonder, was he employed by Oswald Cobblepot to kill the Waynes? This is the first character that we've seen who has a similar kind of build to Butch Gilzine, similar kind of build to the Wayne murder, who we saw in the pilot. I'm wondering, is this the guy? Are we seeing just a quick intro to him?
It's a bit like where Oswald negotiates Jim Gordon along the investigation to do with Arkham, and how it's the competing factions of Maroni and Falcone and so on. And in the first episode, he talks about the chaos that the Wayne family murders will bring. Maybe he knew this all along. Maybe he knew about Viper. Maybe he knew about Wayne Enterprises. Maybe he knew about all these people that he's been a puppeteer almost, in fact.
Exactly. Maybe he knew. Maybe he knew about it because he's the one that's instigating it all.
Exactly. Yeah. And maybe this is this whole grand plan playing out in front of everyone else, but something that he is orchestrating. As Falcone said in Penguin's Umbrella, it's amazing how it played out exactly as you said it would do. That he is this master puppeteer who's able to mould and work people that are associated with him to his ends, that he's seeking to achieve. But quickly on Gabriel, another
your theory,
possibility. No, just a possibility of who this person may be. It's pure speculation. It potentially does have a connection with the criminal underworld of Gotham, and it potentially has a connection with Oswald Cobblepot.
Okay.
But it is speculation because it's just a first name, and maybe the writers just chose Gabriel. But there is a person called Gabriel Santo. This is all from New Earth.
Which is one of the new story arcs.
It's the new story arcs. Is also a crime lord, a member of and leader of a crime cartel, who view that crime will be a new social order.
Right.
In Gotham. He's a member of the Penitenti cartel, which models themselves on penitenti monks, I believe, that like to flay themselves.
The penitent ones, yes.
Yes, exactly. Flay, a bit of flaying. So they're also violent. Gabriel Santo, in New Earth, welcomes Oswald Cobblepot as a powerful ally to their cartel. Not a member of their cartel, but they are allies. And ultimately, both Santo and Cobblepot are attacked by the Red Hood at some point. So, I'm not saying that any of this is going to happen, but there is a connection there within DC, the DC canon already, between Oswald Cobblepot and someone called Gabriel. That was Gabriel Santo. It'd be interesting to know what this guy's surname is. It certainly has, Oswald Cobblepot is a crime lord. That's his evil supervillain, is that he is a really well-placed, masterful mobster and crime lord. And maybe it is just that he has also become allied to a new kind of cartel.
A new faction or whatever.
A new faction.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And again, it just, that theory would harken back to Falcone's hatred of the new people coming up who just want to destroy things, who just want crime to take over the city. He believes in the balance. These new crime lords like Maroni, like Oswald, and like Fish seem to just believe in the crime and it taking over the city, essentially. So yeah, interesting theory, John. Well done.
Well, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in this episode, beyond Gabriel, but also including maybe the Court of Owls, Wayne Enterprises still. It's a really good episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one of the really interesting ones is the quick cut in to a scene with Falcone brutally taking out one of his captains as a message to the rest of the captains as don't cross Falcone. Essentially all we hear is a quick crack or a quick snap of a gun, we presume. And one of the older members of his captains is face down in a bowl of pasta.
Spag bol?
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
I don't know whether it's spag bol or whether that's the man's blood. I'm not sure about that, because all we see is some red pasta. But
Parmesan with that, anyone?
No, definitely not. I think he's been moved away by the catering staff as well. But I like that essentially the message that he's trying to send is don't mess with Falcone. The message that's actually received by Fish is, hold on, this is an opening for me. Falcone has not only killed one of his commanders, meaning that he's unstable. He's also telling everybody that you've got to pay more to me. You've got to pay another 25% you've got to pay up to 25% of your take directly to me to support the family. So Fish is going, well, I know those two captains over there aren't happy with it, and I'm going to get them on my side. And tasks Butch with going after those two captains and getting them over to her side, which I think is quite interesting. Seeing the message that he was trying to send and what was actually received by Fish is quite interesting.
Absolutely, and it's even just that whole idea that Fish and Butch is prior to Alfred and Harvey coming in, and Fish is just saying to Butch, stick to the plan. Go to these members. This seems to be all part of her plan. He is slightly unsure. He's a bit nervous. She's the one telling him, stick to the script. Which is kind of interesting as well. It's the first bit of hesitation, I think, that we've seen from Butch. He has been a loyal captain and right-hand man of Fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally agree. Really, really good stuff. Apart from that, really, there is just the hugely shocking
revelation.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I unfortunately did see the revelation ahead of time, as people were sending me messages for the last 2.5 weeks, going, "What's Jim going to do in Arkham?"
See, I didn't. I was definitely trying to keep my eyes away from all of this, and I was like, going, "Oh my goodness, this is brilliant." Alfred is doing like Bond poses. He's like, killing people here, karate chops there, kind of thing. There's a really good Alfred episode. It's a brilliant Bruce Wayne, Selina Kyle episode. Again, Alfred's teaming up with Harvey Bullock, really good. The whole Lovecraft angle. I had the rug pulled from under my feet when you come to that excellent scene with Mayor James Aubrey, with Harvey Dent and Jim Gordon sat in the office there. I think it's in the GCPD precinct. It's in Captain Esson's office. Where, it almost looks like a headmaster with two naughty pupils.
One who knows how to play the game.
And one that
doesn't. Yeah.
As we find out from this great set of dialogue.
Sir, I protest, but not too much. You see, Counselor Dent knows how to walk the line. He knows where the edge is. You, Mr. Gordon, do not know where the edge is.
Mayor James, kiss my ass.
Yeah, so essentially he's saying that Dent knows how to walk the line, which I think is quite an interesting line. Dent is unabashedly willing to throw Jim under the bus. When he realizes that he has thrown Jim on the bus, he suddenly goes, "Oh, well, actually, I'm not too sure whether I've done the right thing here." I'm not too sure whether these characters are going to be friends like they are in the comics or like they have been in previous films.
It's certainly Harvey Dent, and to be honest, again, it's really well nuanced by Nicholas D'Agosta here.
Yeah.
It is a dubious response to what the mayor is saying, and the mayor comes out with a really good little line, which he says, you know to protest in a sense, but not enough, not too much.
Yeah.
You're not going to put yourself in harm's way. You will always kind of pull back before mud sticks or you get in the firing line.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real put down by Mayor Aubrey. It essentially leads to Mayor Aubrey getting his revenge on Jim Gordon. And that means breaking up Jim and Harvey. And I was like, jaw to the floor, completely in shock that this was happening, that Jim gets reassigned to Arkham Asylum, because it's all kind of fixed that, well, Lovecraft committed suicide because there was a relentless pressure coming from an overzealous cop with trumped up charges. I mean, you can't get any worse than that, as sort of Mayor Aubrey is saying this to the media. And it's completely broken up the partnership that is Harvey Bullock and Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
Like, the whole episode finishes with Jim walking into Arkham as essentially, I presume, just like a regular officer.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a prison officer almost. Yeah.
And the question mark of who will be Harvey Bullock's new partner?
Yeah.
Who will it be?
I don't know. I like that.
Someone new, someone old, someone blue, someone borrowed.
I like that there's a nice bit of interplay between Edward Nygma and Jim. When Ed finds out, he's like, "I'll file a report. I don't want you to be lost here." Again, it's Ed Nygma's only ally in the department. From the stuff that Harvey's done, Jim has really become his only ally in the department as well, because everybody shut him off for the things that Jim's done. It's unfortunate that this has happened, that the relationship is finally broken up in this way.
And I think, just to come back on that scene in Captain Essen's office, and it's something that one of our listeners, Detective Daniel Butcher, has previously said, is that Richard Kind, who plays James Aubrey, the mayor, is great in this scene. I really, really enjoyed this scene.
He's a real standout, isn't he?
Yeah, really, real standout. And it's because of what I think Daniel had mentioned, where he had picked that out, and you kind of look back at some of those scenes with Richard Kind, and he just plays this menace. And you can see almost the glee in his voice. He doesn't mind that Jim Gordon is kind of standing up to him, because as far as he's concerned, he's just got this now arrogance, this untouchable feel or outward persona that he's projecting. And I love the way Richard Kind has taken this mayor and crafted him into a real dubious public official who will do anything. And he echoes what Falcone has said as well, that you're upsetting the balance of Gotham, the order of Gotham, by continuing the investigation of Thomas and Martha Wayne. It's exactly what Falcone said to him. He is this old school public official for Gotham, which is about the balance between law and order and organized crime, and in a sense, that symbiotic relationship that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. There's even that great little threat. Did you see the veiled threat that he gives them, which is he calls Dent and Gordon arrogant clowns, and then said, "I should have you stuffed in a sack and thrown in the river, but I can't do that because having two people fall would be bad against me," essentially. So he's saying he would do it. It's something he would do in the past. He would have killed anybody that got in his way and thrown them in the river, but he's not going to do it because it would look bad if both of them went down. They would be immediately traced to him as the intention. So he is threatening them. He is threatening to kill them, but he's going to actually just destroy one of their careers by sending them off to Arkham. It's a really good scene. Really, really good.
And I think with this, though, I'm really excited now for episode 11, because this is an exciting development with Jim moving essentially to police Arkham Asylum. What happens to Harvey Bullock? Who is he gonna partner with, or what's his relationship moving forward now with Jim Gordon? This is really interesting. And then the deeper questions over Wayne Enterprises, over the Copperheads. Who is actually pulling the strings here in Gotham? Yeah. Is it Falcone? Is it Oswald? Is it Fish? Mm-hmm. Is it Wayne Enterprises? Is it another organization that we're still to find out about?
Hydra.
Because... and well, that's a crossover that certainly won't be happening.
Okay, that won't happen, sorry.
If only, though. It'd be quite cool. Maybe or Spectre.
It'd be quite interesting. Yeah, Spectre actually would be... It's a whole Bond tie-in this episode.
Yeah, the Bond tie-in. But it's really exciting for the new year for me, and I can't wait for it to come, actually. It's brilliant.
Only one other thing for this episode, for me, I think, is just the reappearance of Ivy Pepper. This episode was a bit of a shocker, to be honest. I kind of seen that Claire Foley was going to come back in a future episode, so the Irish actress that plays Ivy Pepper. I kind of had seen that she was going to be coming back. I didn't expect her in this location. I didn't expect her to be as messed up as she is in this episode. We find out that she's obviously lost her father, who she lost in the pilot, was killed by Harvey Bullock. And now we hear that her mother killed herself. Yeah, because of the death of the father, potentially. And now she's on the streets. Another street urchin. And also the fact that Catgirl or Selina Kyle is scared of her.
Cat.
Yeah, is actually scared, genuinely scared of her. And kind of see why. She's a bit of a freaky little character, but I like the little part. You know?
It was a really nice little portrayal of Ivy, and I really can't wait to see that develop. That will be really interesting.
If she appears in and out like a character like Mackie, who's been in 3 episodes now, I think you could do that with Ivy Pepper. She doesn't need to be central. She doesn't need to be running with the gang of kids in Gotham and make it, as we said before, the problem with the show could have been Gotham babies. It's not supposed to be that. I'm hoping that you're not going to run with them for every episode. I'd like to see Claire Foley come back maybe once every 2 or 3 episodes. Just an appearance from her.
And maybe it would establish better for season 2. We're kind of getting snippets of Ivy Pepper here. Okay, maybe it could be even a shorter time between seeing her again. But maybe it's something to expand out in season 2.
Absolutely.
Who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah, absolutely. There was just one bit of the scene with her that I wasn't hugely happy with. I thought the comment that Bruce is a bit cute, isn't he? I felt it felt out of place. It felt like a nod to her future, or to people who know Poison Ivy in the comic books as a 24, 25-year-old who's attracted to Batman. It felt like just a bit of a weird nod for an 8 or 9-year-old girl or a 10-year-old girl to a 12-year-old boy, that you would need to acknowledge that, he's cute, isn't he? It just felt like a bit of the wrong nod to send at this time. It's enough to know that she's lost her mom, she's lost her dad, and she's living on the street, and that she's already starting to be pretty creepy. It's enough to know that about the character. I don't think we needed that element of her fancying the young Bruce Wayne. I don't know. It seemed a bit odd for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I did kind of take it up as being, Selina's attached to him, not necessarily romantically or in any kind of way like that, but it seemed like she was trying to just roll with Selina to an extent. So I know what you're saying, but I didn't necessarily read or take it up in that way to begin with. But I think overall, for me, this is a really good and actually unexpected in many quarters mid-season finale as we move into kind of the Christmas New Year break, and I loved it. For me, standout, absolutely Sean Pertwee. I loved the range that he brought to Alfred and the interaction, and to see him outside of Wayne Manor along with Bruce Wayne, and that continuing development with the relationship between Bruce and Selina is really good for me. I really enjoy that. I think then the shock revelation of Jim moving to Arkham Asylum, I just did not expect that. Completely out of nowhere. And it's a really interesting little twist, which I can't wait to see what happens. Yeah. So for me, really good episode. Up there with Penguin's Umbrella, actually, for me. And I can't wait to see episode 11.
Yeah, no, excellent. I think I don't know whether it's because the writer who wrote this episode really knows how to write for the Alfred character, has given that, maybe they were just given that task of how to write a really good Alfred episode, but I think it upped the game of Butch Gilzean, it upped the game of Fish, to have a new partner to play off, it upped the game of David Mazouz. Again, he's been brilliant with Sean Pertwee's Alfred, but have David Mazouz separated from Alfred for a while and have them come back together and have a really emotional moment together. It's fantastic. And again, as I said, Harvey Bullock and Alfred. I'd love to see Alfred join the GCPD and become Bullock's new partner, because the two of them work so well together. They have such a good play off each other.
It was great.
The guy from the upper society in Gotham and the guy from essentially the lower society of Gotham and Harvey Bullock working together to crack the criminals. It's almost its own detective show.
I think we said this in one of our first episodes, where the picture that was released of Alfred was, it had him in a coat that looked very much like one of the it's almost like a Victorian detective. He's wearing this sort of woolen coat. Okay, it did look very butlery, I think we said at the same time. Yeah, but very Sherlock Holmes, very kind of that era. But nonetheless, we still have to find out more about his military background. Yes, we know he was in the military, but was he, for example, in the military police, or was he, front line?
Oh, it's Jack Reacher. It's the British Jack Reacher.
Exactly.
I like it.
And maybe he could get consulted on by the GCPD in certain circumstances. Not to say that happens every week, but maybe that occasional interaction with the GCPD, almost like as a consultant, could be really, really interesting.
Yeah. I'm liking your theories here. So we'll see in a couple of weeks, hopefully. We won't be too long away. As we said, we'll know more in the next couple of weeks. We will try and have an episode out early in 2015 with some kind of either recap of the first 10 episodes or perhaps something new and something interesting. Keep an eye out on your podcast feeds. Hopefully we won't be too long away. I think with that, Merry Christmas, Alan. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Alan, and a Happy New Year. We can't wait to be getting back into episode 11, certainly given the events of episode 10 this week. So if you want to provide us with any feedback or any comments of the first 10 episodes so far, please give us a shout at feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com, or you can contact me or Derek on john@gothamtvpodcast.com or derek@gothamtvpodcast.com, or search Gotham TV Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, or Tumblr, and interact with us in those ways. Again, have a great Christmas. Thank you for listening, and see you in 2015.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've just been listening to the 10 episodes of the reviews of the series so far, just make sure you go back and check some of the episodes that are in our archives. We've done an entire review of the series of the Christopher Nolan Batman films. We've done a review of Batman Year One. We've done a ton of stuff you'll be able to find in the archives. We've also done interviews with a lot of the major cast now of Gotham, some of the major cast of Constantine and the producers of that show. So go back and check those out if you're going to miss us over the break, and hopefully we'll see you very early in 2015.
Exactly, as you're snuggled up in front of the warm fire, drinking a festive drink. Plug in those earphones, turn on your iPod or Android device, and listen to our dulcet tones this Christmas.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna leave you with Jingle Bells rendition.
Batman Smells. Lots of fun and cheer.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for listening. As always, we'll talk to you very soon in 2015. And as John said, let us know your thoughts, and leave us another review on iTunes if you get the chance on our episodes. It'd be great to let other people find us as we go into the second half of season 1. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll talk to you again next year.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in 2015.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Have a great New Year. We'll speak to you soon.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, Alan.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey!
Jingle bells, Batman smelt, Robin laid an egg.
The Batmobile lost the wheel, and the Joker got away. Crashing through the roof in a one-horse open tree, busting out I go, laughing all the way.
But Whitechapel's an upper class area of London, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And what's the other word you want?
And then the other one.
So, Whitechapel is a fairly well-heeled area of London.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else like to explain Horrible Little Toe Rag and Bloke from Whitechapel and why and the slagging of Butch? Pop in an email to us to feedback@GothamTVPodcast.com.
In particular, any of the people who listen to us who are from London,
Yes.
we would appreciate certainly the Whitechapel reference, which is kind of interesting because that's a very specific part of London, and I'm just not very good at the root of where toe rag comes from.
Oh, right. Sorry.
You toe rag. In my world, you need to behave like smoke, essentially. Be a bit more fluid, a bit more sort of... fluid and smoky.
Yes. Yes, be a bit more fluid.
Yeah, she does
She
indeed.
doesn't hide very well her moliness. She doesn't hide very well that she's the mole. But she doesn't hide very well that she's the mole. Falcone doesn't happen to look around. She doesn't hide very well. You stop it.